It is very clear that to change the narratives in Africa's destiny, we need a critical mass of Christian politicians and policymakers who have a balanced view of the global politics and an accurate perspective and interpretation of the Bible and God's mindset on African people and the African continent. The question is, how do we get such a caliber of African Christians, get them interested in taking over the reins of government and decision-making in Africa?
Well, first of all, you got to look and say the African Christians must also do the Christian thing. I am still quite shocked at the percentage of African churches you go to, and they're still hanging a white Jesus Christ. The pastors, they must preach the true gospel. They must teach the Bible for the righteousness that it should be. But for them to continue to teach religion, just like the Christians from colonization taught it, there's something wrong with that picture. So our religious community has a responsibility to teach religion the right way. And they must also incorporate our own ways of living as Africans. To just regurgitate the Bible as it was presented to us by the missionaries, that is wrong. So we're counting on our religious leaders to do the right thing. And they're the ones that need to help us in getting to understand religion properly. We believe in Jesus Christ. We believe in God. But the way religion is being taught, it was used to brainwash us. So our religious leaders, they have a responsibility to do the right thing. In Africa, they're really doing us a serious disservice, and the religious community needs to have a serious conversation about what their role is in Africa. Please do not be used. Please do not be the instrument of our own self-destruction. I'm sorry to say, but religion in Africa, to a great extent, a lot of people are still being controlled by those who sought to exploit us and control us. So we are still being controlled through religion. So we are counting on our religious leaders to understand not only the Bible, but also, of course, the Quran or whatever the book is, but we must also infuse our own values. Because if we go back to the base, we didn't have crime before these people came. A lot of what we are suffering, the ailments that we are having today, were brought to us. If we were to go back to our values as Africans, let's not give up that which was us and completely take over somebody else's beliefs. Our religious leaders are doing us a serious disservice, and they need to come back to the drawing table and infuse our way of life plus the religion. There's nothing wrong with mixing, but to just regurgitate somebody else's values and teach us to ignore our own values, there's something fundamentally wrong with that. And that is why, to a great extent, we're easily manipulated, and we continue to be the instruments of our own self-destruction. So religious leaders, please beware, play your part, do the right thing. Teach us what we need to teach. Teach us the righteous way of living life, and allow us to embrace our own values.
All right.
What really is needed is us Black people coming together and speaking with one voice and approach this issue of reparations as a unit, not some entity out of the Caribbean and some small group out of the United States. No, it must be looked at as one people, as a race. The abuse for those who are being told all the African Americans suffered more than the Africans on the continent, that's a lie. I actually have a new diagnosis for us Black people. We have what we call PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. For us Black people, I'm calling it CTSD, continuous traumatic stress disorder. We're still being traumatized. No matter where you find us as Black people, we are the most endangered species on earth, more endangered than the wild animals. Our abuse, our exploitation continues to this very day. So the only way to address the issue of reparations is when we speak with one voice. Reparations are due from the United States. Reparations are due from Europe. And United Nations needs to be responsible to seeing to it that those reparations are paid by those two continents. For they are the ones that benefited the most from the abuse and exploitation of Black people. So we must unite. As ADDI, we are looking into assembling a team of lawyers who can look into this issue, where it can be addressed through the proper channels, through the US Congress, through the European Union, but we will be speaking with one voice, where we can have what we would call, especially now with the African Continental Free Trade Area. You see, our wealth is in Africa. The only way we are going to get our economic liberation is through utilizing and taking control of our inheritance in Africa. Africa still remains the richest continent on earth. Right now, we are going through a new scramble for Africa, where the rest of the world is looking to Africa for their needs. Let's not make no mistake about it. In spite of the centuries of exploitation, the latest studies are showing that the abusers, the colonizers, they've only tapped into maybe 10% of Africa's wealth. Maybe 10%. So there's a heck of a lot more still waiting for the children of Africa to come and take. You know, the reality is we must come together and speak with one voice. Every day, new resources, natural resources are being discovered in Africa. I want people to really understand, especially as diaspora, the vast amounts of wealth in Africa. Everybody is rushing to go there, except the inheritors, the owners of that wealth. So this is where we need to wake up. So if we can look at a situation to say, where Africa is today is equivalent to where the US was 50, 60, 70 years ago. Everything development is needed. Everything development is needed. Picture a situation that we would like to have our true Wakanda. You can never have a Wakanda in the United States. There's only so much upgrading you could do of New York City. You cannot turn New York City into Wakanda. No, there's only so much you can do. You can only do so much in London. But in Africa, it's open land. We're going to leapfrog into the future, just like we did with cell phones, for example. Africa completely bypassed analog. I remember when I would go home to Africa, Africans were using digital cell phones. And here in America, we're still using analog. We were way behind. We simply leapfrogged. We no longer dug telephone lines in Africa. So many countries that did not have telephone access, they just went on into digital. Well, guess what? We can do the same thing with Africa. Every city that needs to be built, all the cities in Africa today, they all want to get rid of them and build new cities. Because the old cities, there's only so much you can do with them. We can build futuristic cities. We can make our brother proud, Bosman, by building true Wakandas. Because all we have is virgin territory to put whatever we want. Cities that are controlled on a central grid. Cities that are completely automated in everything that we do. Cities that are even cheaper to build because they're going to be futuristic cities. We can do all that in Africa. We have a program right now we're looking at through African Diaspora Development Institute, where people don't realize the belly of Africa. When I talk about the belly of Africa, I'm talking that area from Ethiopia all the way to, say, Equatorial Guinea. That's the belly of Africa. We want to link the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean. Every 200 to 300 kilometers, we're going to have a brand new city that's going to be built around whatever is going on. Be it a cotton city, start with cotton growing, and all the way to textile manufacturing, all the way to the fashion industry. Cities built on manufacturing of construction materials. Cities built on jewelry. From the mining of diamonds, from the mining of gold to creating of jewelry. So whatever is needed or what is readily available, we're going to be building those cities, but they will all be futuristic cities. Much easier to build, more economical to run. Guess what? We can build it in Africa. We can build it. So why don't we say, well, we're all reparations. How about an idea of coming up with what we would call Reparations African Continental Development Plan? The funds that are put into a bank, private sector run, to fund projects to build the Africa we want. Because that's where the money is, remember? The minerals are there. We take the gains from Africa, we then use them to build communities, Black communities around the world, be it in the United States, in the Caribbean, South America, Europe. We begin to put systems in place to say those funds, those returns from those contracts in building Africa, we now address those issues that were put in place to keep Black people from being economically empowered. One, first-time home buyers, getting loans, low-interest loans that do not take into consideration your credit score, that do not take into consideration your criminal history. Free education for Black children, because your parents have paid for it. It has been, your college education has been paid for centuries. Things like that that have been kept away from us and prevented us from building economic wealth, improving our own communities and home ownership. We put all those things in place, but they will be facilitated by the returns on the investments, but also the profits from those companies that are going to be building Africa. It will be part of the whole reparations package. It'll be a package that is easy to accept because everybody benefits. And it starts with us, so it's for us as Black people, it's a win-win situation. We benefit from the returns on the investment, we benefit on the profits that those companies are going to get when they build our Africa. And we end up with an upgraded, futuristic Africa that the rest of the world can only dream of.
Thank you.
Are you
very
getting
much.
my point now?
Yes,
we have to be strategic. We have to be strategic, and we present a plan that makes sense, a plan that truly uplifts us. To be given $5 billion, it's going to last in the Black community one day. Before you know it, Walmart has it. KFC has it. McDonald's has it. Let's take it all the way to the top. Money that we get as Black people does not last long in our Black communities unless we put systems in place to keep that money in our neighborhoods. So it's a whole holistic approach, but we must approach it in a united way, and it has to be linked to the development of Africa, because that is where the real money is. So reparations, absolutely, way past due. Let's come up with a plan where we speak with one voice, we hold the US accountable, we hold Europe accountable, and we make sure United Nations, they do their work, which is to fight abuses around the world. And they need to make sure the US and Europe pay reparations to Black people.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Here we have a comment. I like to mention it not for discussion, but just to make a point. The comment says from an anonymous person, representation in multilateral organizations such as the UN is critical to influencing policies. However, racism is so entrenched that Africans that speak up are forced out. This happened to me. How do we unite to resist this? I was a lone voice. I would like to link up with the ambassador. So just to let you know, somebody's going to contact you from here with your permission.
Absolutely. Let me also make a comment along those lines. When it comes to representation at the United Nations, I know mine is a radical point of view, but Africans do not need to be, they don't belong there. We're not needed. We're not doing anything. We're only there to be able to say, oh, the Africans were there, check. But our voices are not heard. We do not belong at the United Nations until we can be part of the 5, maybe 6 member UN Security Council. Until we are at that level, we don't belong there. Our voices do not matter. So it is my humble opinion that if all the African leaders could come together and say, keep your UN, because it makes no difference to us. What is the UN doing for us? Look at all the problems in Africa. UN is giving it a blind eye. You talk about human rights abuses. Some of the worst human rights abuses are being perpetrated by France, who is a member of the UN Security Council. Come on now, talk to me. France alone is the biggest risk to peace and security in Africa, period. Everybody knows that. Of all the conflict countries in the world, 40% of them are in Africa. Of the 40% of those who are in Africa, it makes up 19 countries. Of the 19 countries, 17 are former French colonies. That's where most of the conflicts are in Africa. So if you want to know where Africa's problems come from, look at the countries that are having conflicts and then see who is controlling those economies. See who has controlled those economies for centuries. It's France. And France is a member of the UN Security Council. So why are we at the United Nations? We don't belong there. That's my humble opinion.
Humble yet radical. Thank you, nonetheless. We are bringing it to a landing, but there's a question here from Dr. Frederick Doe. And let me just read it quickly. I think this will go to Bishop Nkandla.